Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune for the 8th day of January 2019. Well, I wanted to show you guys, I'm going to switch rune bags today and use a different set of runes. Um, I think it's always best to craft your runes if at all possible. I know that's tough with crystals because then you'd have to engrave and, you know, it's a pain. So I usually buy those. Although there were some runes that I found, see if I can find them here, at the coast, at the Oregon coast. It's when I found my hag stones, my holy stones. I can never find them. And I found that just a ton of them there one day. Well, it was the weekend of our oldest son's wedding. But let's see, what are these? No, that's not the one. But I found some really nice flat stones. Let's see if I can find them here. Maybe they're in this. No, those are ones I bought. Well, I had it all sitting here for you so I could show you. Anyhow, I went ahead and I painted those, but they're really cool. They're flat and they feel really nice in my hand. Maybe I stuck them over here. No. Well, in any event, oh, here they are. Okay. But they're really cool, and you can never find just really small flat stones, right? And so all I did, and really all you have to do is you can just find some stones and then paint them, draw a in this case, I used a silver Sharpie, and then I as sort of the outline, and then I went over it again with just a black one, just so it has some kind of, that's Sawillo. But those I found at the coast, and I really like how they feel in my hand. And plus, they're special because they were found on like I say, we were down there for my oldest son's wedding. So that was nice. But here's one here made of moonstone. I wonder if you can see that very well. Well, that's upside down, isn't it? That's Othala. But you can see it's got gold inlay on it. Likely gold paint, but still, they look cool. This one is made of rose quartz. And you can see the same sort of deal. You can barely, oh, there it is. Well, it's upside down. There is as. But that's made of rose quartz. And the thing about, if you have a particular, I tend to just look at influences. But, if you were going to do a reading for something in particular, say someone was wanting to know, well, what are the influences surrounding love in my life? Well, you might use a rose quartz set of runes to do that with. Now here, the other thing, there's different types of runes. I'll say that as well. I use the Elder Futhark. I also use a set of witch runes from time to time, but I've also done a set of Ogham-Fuse, which is even more so like a language than even, or an alphabet than like the Elder Futhark is. But there's a lot of different rune sets. There's the Younger Futhark, there's the Icelandic, Anglo-Saxon. It just depends on what you want to look at and what you're interested in. I like a lot of different stuff. So, I'm into geomancy, and there's another Ogham-Fuse. And these I put the sign for Awen, the symbol for Awen up at the top, so I knew where, how they're oriented, because otherwise you're not really sure what you're looking at, particularly with that one. Oh, and I did a smaller set of Ogham-Fuse as well, or staves, however you want to call it. I did them really small. There's one for Kenaz. In case I wanted to do like a rune script instead of like a bind rune, you can also lay runes out and have them, basically be your bind rune, only laid out like a word or a phrase, however many you're going to use. A note about these here, the poplar ones. These are made from poplar. Now, poplar is it's good for expending energies, for trance work, all of that. But the thing about this particular tree, I used to have 22 Lombardy poplars growing up my driveway. Those tall poplars, the spiky looking ones. I think they look really cool when they line a driveway. And so a long time ago, I had bought some, and I think I bought it from Gurney's. I bought the bare root trees, and I got like, I don't even know how many I got, but my husband prepared 22 sites up the driveway. And so the day my mother passed, we didn't know yet that she had died. She died in her home, and we had moved her up here closer to us from where she was. She had COPD and congestive heart failure, and it was so advanced that, and she was very young. She died a month before her 66th birthday. And the thing is that I had called her that morning about 11 o'clock, and I couldn't reach her. And we had this understanding that if she didn't answer the phone, she might be out. You know, she had her oxygen thing that she went out with, you know, went to the store with and all that. Or she might be outside, you know, with the dog, or she might be visiting or whatever with friends. And so if I didn't reach her, that was okay. So I just call her back. Well, I had this voice in my head, and it was my mother saying, plant the damn trees. And I hadn't planted the poplars yet. And it was, you know, getting ridiculous. I hadn't put them in yet. And so I planted the trees. At about 4 o'clock, I called back, and I didn't reach her. And so my oldest son and I drove to Bend, where she lived, and we, of course, found her, that she had passed. So I made some runes. I made the Ogham runes, and I made some Elder Futhark runes out of the hawthorn tree. One of the hawthorn trees that I had put in the day that my mother died. And so these are really special to me. And we'll use them sometime. Maybe we'll use them in May on her birthday. If we do this on May 8th, she was born on May 8th. So maybe we'll do that then. Use that one. This one here, this one's made out of apple. Now, apple is good for healing and love and femininity and fertility and all of that. So if you were to do again a reading, and you had a bunch of different, you know, runes you've crafted from different trees or whatever, hopefully they're trees from a significant location. In my case, they're from my property. Although I have some birch, and I've not done any yet with the birch, and that's from my oldest son's property. I also have some alder from my youngest son's property. So I may do some out of those as well. Well, definitely the birch. I have to see, though, on the other stuff if they're on the size of them. I've done some altar tiles out of the alder. In fact, well, I think I showed you guys that one day that has the omega symbol on it. That's for trance work. But this one here, this is black locust. And black locust is good for protection from negative forces. So if you were having, you know, an issue that way, you might do your reading with a black locust set of runes. Let's see what I have here. Oh, this feels like the lapis lazuli ones. Oh yeah, these are pretty. This is lapis lazuli. Let's get it out of the glare. That's Rado. These are pretty. They're heavy. That's what I like about the ones that you can buy. They're heavy. And so they lay nicely, which they don't always. Sometimes the rose quartz ones, they don't. They just sort of roll around. I have a set of amethyst ones. Oh, here's a set of flat amethyst ones. Right, that over. There's Degas. So I have a lot. I have a lot of runes, and I can't seem to help myself. This is opalite. I see one. There's one that I have, and I'm not sure where it is. It might be in my witch bag, but I can't even remember what the name of it is. But it almost looks like dragonstone. That's not the name of it, though. It's greener than that, and it is just the coolest thing. We had gone to see Abraham, and saw Esther Hicks do Abraham, and we're wandering around downtown Portland. She was in Portland, and we went there, and she's wandering around in Portland, and oh, there's another witch room. And it was fun because, I went into this crystal shop, of course, and because I can't stay out of them. And lo and behold, I found these, and they're really tiny. There's really tiny rocks, and I was just drawn to them. And so I even did a reading, and in fact, I wrote it up on the blog that night while we were, waiting to go to her deal the next day. And it was just, they were just cool. And I don't know, I just responded to them, so I had to have them. I wish I could remember what the type of stone it was. I had it written down. Well, I had a card with it, and I have it somewhere, but I have no idea where. So anyhow, well, let's get started anyhow. I just wanted to share that with you guys. If you're interested in runes. Most of the time people craft their own. Like I say, I usually use my hawthorn ones. Now hawthorn is cool. That's actually a fairy tree. So you always want to ask permission, leave a little present, a little offering. If you take something from a hawthorn tree, even if you're harvesting the berries, for teas and tinctures, you just want to bless the tree and thank them for blessing you with such health and all of that. So it's also considered a witch tree, and I've made some wands from it, and I have a set of runes, like I say, that I crafted from it. And I just think that it has special power. But I wanted to kind of break that up a little bit, and I'm going to use a set of willow ones. They're the very first, I think they were the very first set of runes I ever tried to make. And they're small, and I kind of go, they range in sizes. I kind of like to have a specific size, but I can't always find, the branch I like. And so, or one that's long enough and straight enough in a section that we can cut 24 runes off of it. So my husband's kind enough to do all that for me. So that's nice. Otherwise, I don't cut straight. So he's a lot better at it than I am. But I've got that. And then I think the next one I made was I might have made I didn't show you the juniper ones. They're kind of hard to see. Juniper is a real interesting wood. When you start to look at the inside of it, it's real shaggy on the outside, which I kind of toy with some altar tiles, so just leaving it that way instead of pulling all that off. It's kind of neat to look at it. But inside, it's got variations, in the wood and in the color. So you can't always see them, especially with this weird glare that I have going here. So, but the apple is nice, but the willow is almost light as a feather, and so they're just a lovely rune to use. So we'll use that one today. Let's count 13 and see what we have, what the card says for today. Almost lost one. Okay, not a court card. Yay. All right, so we have, let's see what we have. I can't see that. The 7 of Wands. Well, I love 7s. About divinity and balance, the shadow side of self. Wands is our will. It's the fire element. So creativity. But here, he's actively defending himself. He's standing in his own power, isn't he? Against all kinds of stuff that's happening. It almost looks like the 6 wands below him are in balance of 2s, doesn't it? But let's take a look and see what the grimoire says. Wands are dynamic. They're it's about our integrity. It could mean about catalytic struggle with other people or within. But this is about the courage to meet obstacles and to overcome things. He's standing in his own power, isn't he? A lot's going on in his life, and maybe that's happening for you right now. maybe you've got a lot going on and a lot of obstacles you've got to overcome. Right now, particularly, it seems like if you're a federal worker, you don't have maybe a paycheck coming this week. I don't know when that started for you. Maybe that's already started. My husband keeps reading little stories to me as he's scrolling through the news, about what he sees about effects on federal workers from and suggestions of, oh, see if you can barter around your apartment to see if you can barter for your rent. That's what the federal government is wanting people to do. Yeah, I think that could be that this represents some of that. There also just may be some other struggles that you're having in your life. Um, but it's about confrontation and about getting the adrenaline going for that. Um, it's almost like things are like things are tense, things are falling apart, maybe things are on the precipice, of something, and you're just trying to stave it all off. So given the number of people that are affected, this may have something to do with that. Let's pull another card though, and see if it has a greater feeling to it. This just always feels to me, the Seven of Wands, like, oh crap, what am I going to deal with today? Like, could I just have a day where nothing happens? It's like, here we go again. That's the feeling I always get from this card of like, oh, I'm not done. I as an empath, I'd always know. We used to own a motorcycle shop, and I'd always know when a male customer wasn't, quote, and I'd say it this way to my husband after he finally left, oh, he wasn't done with me, so he's coming back. It was hard for those guys to get much over on me. I'm just really not. I was really ill at the time too. That's when I had the RA was out of control, and so when we had that business, and so I was really, really sick through most of it, the 13 years that we had it, and I think that I felt a lot like that, the Seven of Wands, having to stand in my own power. When you work in the Harley world, you're a woman that knows anything, that can talk shop, so to speak. It's not always well received. And so a lot of the time, I felt like this, where I'm having to defend truth to someone. I remember this one guy came in with this other guy, and they brought I had sold some bolts. They were taking apart, I think, a transmission or something, and I'd sold them the bolts for it. And so they came back with the service manual, and they're showing me, pointing like this. What about this? You sold me this, and I need this. And what they were looking at in the service manual, they have diagrams, they have pictures, and I mean, they're not in color, but still, you can see some things. And then it'll say figure, 1, figure 2, figure 3, whatever, right? And in the text, it'll reference 1, 2, 3. Well, what it's referencing is not the number of bolts required, but the picture to go look at. So now the one guy knew me really, really well before we had the business. When my husband just worked for Harley, he knew me. And so I'm sure he was a little bit embarrassed when I pointed out the truth to the both of them. The other guy was younger, and he, had an attitude, or a tude, as we called it. And so, I mean, it was this, okay? So if you're experiencing this, I understand. I really do. But let's count 13 and see if we can get just a little more information about what this person is struggling at, what this conflict's all about. Not just because, he's a woman who co-owns a motorcycle shop that works on Harley Davidsons. Yeah, it was awful because I actually took all of the dyno tuning with my husband. We bought a dyno, and we were going to tune, because we did motor work, we did engine work, performance work. So we had to buy a dyno so we could tune the things, right? And because you actually have to create a map for this stuff when you make changes. I don't care if it's just changing the air cleaner. You got to have something else in there if it's a fuel injected bike, and so, or even if it's carbureted, you got to change things. Got to change airflow changes. You got to change the tune. Well, I took the same training, so I used to do some of the tuning. Oh my God. There were those that understood that I could do it and I was good at it, and they appreciated. But most guys were in panic mode. So we got to the point where if they didn't know, I didn't say anything. But I did all of the fine tuning. I did all of the adjusting and all of the fine tuning to make things blend together. I did all of that. So, anyway, this is the kind of well, I said one day about this card that you never know for sure if the dawn is coming, because you don't really see the sun either setting or coming up. You just see the light, and against this big night sky. So we don't know. It's like is it nighttime is falling? We just don't see anything setting. But here, this just means that you've gone as far as you can. You're dead, okay? You're not going anywhere. So being the 10, that's new beginnings. And so we're talking, kind of like the end of illusion and swords is our intellect and we've just, it's kind of darkest before dawn and center align and no, I wrote that on here. Excuse me, going beyond limits. But again, the end of difficulty. So, maybe even though we're here right now, maybe that's, we're not going to either get in the way of ourselves or we're not going to pay attention anymore to people that are trying to bother us, because swords can be either. It can either be, the Eight of Swords is a perfect example of this, where you see a blindfolded woman against all these, swords around her. And basically she's gotten in the way of herself, too many thoughts coming in. And so she has to blindfold herself so she can get out of the way of all of it, right? Well, this is the same sort of idea, only you've just reached the end of it. No more illusion. No more talk, talk, talk. No more lies. No more nothing. We've had enough, okay? We're going to stand in our power, but we've had enough, okay? So if this is happening personally to you, if it's related to this whole government shutdown, and no, dude, it's not a strike. This is not striking workers. This is you. You're doing this. Don't blame anyone other than yourself. You're doing it. And no, I'm not listening to the stupid 8-minute speech tonight on TV. Not listening. So there you go. I don't even care what you have to say. I listen to the stories my husband's reading. Like I said, going through all of this, and it's like, my God, and now you've got the TSA workers that are doing the sick out. They're not showing up for work because they're not getting paid. Yeah, I think 61,000 airline pilots have written a letter saying, hey, cut it out. Open the government. Pay us. Yeah. Other countries don't do this. It's like I was talking to my husband. I said, listen, if we had ever decided, well, we're just not going to pay our bills, we're going to shut the business down. We're going to owe rent. We're not going to pay it. We're not going to pay our phone. We're not going to pay our lights. We're not going to pay any of that. We're just going to shut it down. We're going to shut it down right now. Well, we wouldn't have a business. We wouldn't have a space to be in. We wouldn't have had, you know what I mean? It's like this fantasy life that the Congress lives in and the president lives in, where we're going to hold everybody hostage to get what we want. How juvenile. Can't we be better than that? Can't we at least figure out what makes sense instead of, what furthers on someone's own financial ambitions? Because that's what's at the root of all of this stuff, is that. So anyhow, apropos that we get Tiwas today. Again, this is you can see it's a little different. This is the willow. That's the back side. Not as the blonder wood. You can see the difference between that and, say, the Tiwas. I'll show you the difference between that and a hawthorn one. because you can see the edges don't have any. I got all that stuff off of there, but I left the hawthorn. See, I love the bark on the hawthorn. It's real thin, and you can see uh, this is a little bit darker. This is so hard for me to do this. This is a little bit darker than this one. This is a little blonder wood, a little whiter wood. This is the one that I take my I get my white willow bark out of, and it's the inner bark of the. You don't take the outer part of the bark; you take the inner bark and the inner layer, and you scrape that off, and you can tincture it or use it for teas or whatever. The tiwaz is the 17th rune of the Elder Futhark. It reduces to 8. So you're talking leadership skills, practical matters, but from a leadership perspective, taking charge, victory, might for right, justice, right order, spiritual warrior within. So what Tiwaz is saying, you know what? We have the strength to get through whatever this is, whatever's going on, and whatever's happening here. That we have the strength to get through that. So that's good to know. Let me check the grimoire and make sure there's nothing else. But yeah, I mean, Tiwaz is just one of those warrior runes. And when it comes up, you know, it's just letting us know we have the ability, even if we don't realize it. It represents our higher ideals, and it represents, you can see it pointing to spirit. You know, so that tells you right away that it's about spirit informing the process. It's about self-discipline. And no, it's not about trying to figure out a way to struggle and get through the shutdown. It's about Congress having the self-discipline to realize that you cannot bargain with people's livelihoods and security. You can't do that. Find another way, okay? And as far as the, here's the other thing. No matter what you think about the immigration policy, no matter what you think about what's happening on the border, we have to be the adult in the room. We have to be able to have the difficult conversations about what is our immigration policy going to look like. We have to be able to do all those things. We shouldn't be lobbing grenades of tear gas at any of these people. We shouldn't be doing any of that. The other thing that we shouldn't be doing is lying about it. Sarah Sanders went on Fox News on Sunday, and we've seen repeated clips of it played. And I mean, my God, woman, just knock it off. Stop lying. You look ridiculous. You sound ridiculous. You embarrass yourself. And my God, you're a mother, for crying out loud. Someday, your kids are going to say something to you about this, and you're not going to like what they have to say. Stop lying. It's ridiculous. How do those people expect any of us to know what's going on if all they do is lie? If the guy in the Oval Office doesn't want to take a look at what the facts are, if he automatically just is, because he doesn't want to believe it, it's fake news, simply because he doesn't want to believe it, somebody who seems to not know anything, doesn't even know what the job is that he's been hired to do, I don't know. Most of us are tired of this. Most of us have been feeling this way for quite a while. And right now, for some of us, for 800,000 of us, and that's not even all the people they do business with. See, what if you happen to have an apartment building where most of the people that are there are federal workers? What are you going to do? Kick them out? Well, if you're, Ben Carson at HUD, you're going to send a letter out to 1,500 landlords and say, get your money for these folks from this other program. Guess what? Program doesn't exist anymore, and they didn't even know that. Their program, they didn't even know. That's my whole point. These people don't know what they're doing. It's like they're there on a lark and they have no idea what they're doing. And now we have 800,000 people furloughed, no money coming in. And they're just all expected to deal with it. And he's got this delusion going on that they're all happy about it. They're not. No one is. They just aren't. Why would they be? Not knowing how they're going to, and if you're on food stamps, there's rumors that's not going to go out at some point. IRS tax returns, although they've been told to send them out, there's not that many people there. So they're going to be late. People depend on this. See, this is the time of year, whether it's December for Christmas presents or January and February for tax refunds and all of that. A lot of people, they get that stuff in it right away so that they can get their refund right away because they need it. So if we don't open the government, that may be threatened, right? That isn't fair to do. You end up feeling like this at some point. So if you're one of those people today that's being affected directly by this or indirectly after the fact because they can't pay because these federal workers can't pay their bills, and so they're not going to the grocery store, they're not paying their rent, not paying their utilities, they're not, whatever it is they got to do. The credit card's not being paid, nothing's being paid, there's no money. Believe me, whatever money they have, they're going to save it for their children. They're going to save it to feed their children. Now, we can tell those people all we want to. Yeah, oh yeah, stand in your own power. Might for right. But this is not them, is it? Although it is, isn't it? But this is about the guy in charge that could end this right now. Dude, give up on the border wall. Do what they want you to do. They've asked for not a wall, but maybe some increased fencing here and there and some electronic type of stuff, digital kind of stuff, computer kind of stuff, surveillance kind of stuff, increased hires. Do something that makes some sense, but don't, you look ridiculous. Oh, it's steel slats. Oh, it's beautiful steel slats. They can pass drugs through them, right? You're so worried about that. It isn't coming in that way. The terrorists, 4,000 terrorists on the border. No, it was 6, maybe. We don't even know for sure because they weren't arrested. There's been no disposition on any of it, so we don't know who they were. They could have just been names that happened to appear on the list. It wasn't even them, for all we know. See, we don't even know the facts on it. But we're going to make up all kinds of stuff to scare the crap out of people for no reason. No reason. But to maintain some kind of memory device that who was it? They'd say Roger Stone gave him on the campaign trail to make sure he talks about immigration reform. Build a wall, build a wall. Then it'll trigger him in his mind to remember to talk about all the immigrants that he hates. Can you imagine a planning session for these rallies and the messaging that they wanted to send out, the us versus them, white nationalist rhetoric, the hate speech, all of it? Build a wall, lock her up, lock her up. The chanting alone was destructive. It was mind control. And for so many of his followers are concerned about the MK Ultra program, do you not understand what happened to you listening to all of that? Do you not understand? I'm an empath. I got it right off the bat and turned it off because I knew what he was doing. The sing-song tone, the cadence, over and over, over and over, over and over. Mind control, folks. Yeah. So, things are a mess right now. We're having to do a lot of this. This is happening. And sadly, we're going to have to continue to stay lofty about it, As Michelle Obama used to say, when they go low, we go high. It's not easy to do when you're angry. And when you don't have anything, you don't have any money there to feed your kids with. But we have to stand for something, don't we? And that's what Tiwaz is reminding us. We have to stand for something. Unfortunately, it's about standing for kids in cages, We can't have that. There are all these other concerns. And instead of simply dealing with that as a separate issue, they're tying it to this, and they're shutting the government down over it, declaring a national emergency. You watch. We'll see tonight if that's what he does. I hope he doesn't, because that's going to open a can of worms. I guarantee you, no one's going to let him do it. And then what? then what will the conflict escalate to? Every time you have someone who stamps his feet and says, I'm going to tear everything down if I don't get what I want, and then say, oh, it's a national emergency, what it is I want. No, he's the national emergency. We have to do this, folks. We have to, even amidst all of the drama. But it won't be easy. So stay centered, stay focused, understand what's truly going on, see it for what it is, and with luck, in the next few days, this could be over. So maybe today, maybe that's what he'll come back and tell us all. Oh, it's over, folks. You know, that would be the smart thing to do, dude. Because you got to stop doing this to people and making them feel like they've got to, like everything's crashing in on them. This isn't right. It's just not. So hang tight. It could be over soon. And I got a feeling it will be. But it's difficult to predict someone who's crazy and who doesn't think right and who doesn't think with facts behind it. You want your leaders to make decisions that don't upend everything. You want them to make decisions that make things better for people. There's nothing that's going on now that's better. There just isn't. Maybe for the really rich. But you've got farmers that aren't selling anything. You've got farmers that haven't gotten any of their out of that billions and billions of dollars of aid because of the tariffs. We've noticed just the price of foil alone. We went to the store yesterday. The price of foil alone has gone way up, and that's at Walmart. So you're going to start to see the effect of the steel and aluminum tariffs. It's like, oh, we'll give them a steel fence. Well, that's more money, isn't it? Because of the tariffs. Plus, it doesn't get made here. So I don't know. You know, when we start thinking in terms of us versus them, we lose. And that's what this is. And we're all losing for it. So hopefully we'll get through this here and it'll be over sometime this week. Maybe. Think good thoughts. And if you want to send an intention to the guy in the Oval Office, send one for awakening and clarity and understanding and compassion for others. Maybe if we all do that, spend some time just focusing in on that today, maybe that will affect how he comes across tonight on television when he talks to the nation. I'm not very hopeful on that, but you never know. Whether you look at it as the power of prayer or the power of casting one's intention, you can accomplish great things if we all do this together. So think about it. Awakening, compassion, understanding, truth. Focus that on that guy and see what we can affect today. So anyhow, go over to the blog Stepping Aside at imsteppingaside.com. Lunar transits are up. I've got a Thoth Tarot that I'm going to do today. I think it's the 3-card one. I've also got a 4-card one that I did, which I thought was really interesting. I might do that one as well. But yeah, I think that's it then for today. So thanks so much for coming by. And if it's your first time, welcome. If you're back, thank you so much. Click subscribe if you haven't. I'd love you to do that. But anyway, I'll be back tomorrow. Take care of yourself today. If you're in this country or you're not, and you don't feel like watching the guy on TV tonight for that 8-minute triggering event, then don't. If you're a survivor and he triggers you, then don't watch it. I'm not going to watch it because I get triggered by him. So, but give yourself permission to not do that. You don't have to subject yourself to this guy. You don't ever have to listen to him. You can block him on Twitter if you're on Twitter, and then you never see his tweets being retweeted. You see his name, and then you say this is that they don't show it, right? And so, you know, it really reduced my stress by doing that. I blocked him. So I don't see any of it anymore unless it's on television or in a news report or something. And if I can't hear it with Stephen Colbert doing the voice on it, then I really am not interested because it's the only way I can really hear it. I can't listen to the guy's voice. It's just too creepy. Anyway, but definitely today, you know, be good to yourself because today's important. You really need to be good to yourself today and be good to others. And we'll see you tomorrow. And blessed be.